Those four can't be there. So when we say sons or daughters, subsidiary heirs, anyone who's the children of the deceased. And there has to be there cannot be two or more siblings or sisters or brothers, two or more. And the wide ulama says two or more, ikhwa is plural, and so two or more. So in this case, since there is a paternal sister and paternal brother, there's two. So therefore, she gets 1/6, and then they take the rest. All right, we can't see it here, but if we divide it in, so how much the mother will get? I know the math is not the cleanest here, but it's okay. We're gonna round it. So what's the answer? Anyone finished? So how much the mother get from the $1 million? 1/6. How much is that? So 166,667. And then the brothers, the maternal brother, paternal brother, how much does he get? 555,505. And then the sister gets the 277,778. So how did we get that again? Who can remind us? What do we do when we give them the mother her share? We take out the 1/6 from the total, and whatever is remaining, how much shares do we divide into? 3. So how much we need? So 2 for the brother, 1 for the sister, so 3 shares. That's what we're going to do. So we have to remember that step, because that way you will remember how to do it. So even though it has decimals, in the traditional study of the subject, this is inkisar, right? There's a kind of decimal points. They don't like this, so we have to correct it. But for our purposes, and many ulama, contemporary scholars say it's okay, it doesn't matter, right? Because when it comes to the math, even though it's 1 to 5, some will say, well, there's 3 shares and 5 total shares. We have to, change the common denominator, make it bigger. It's irrelevant, because then they were going to divide it by another, right? Math, right? Some more calculations, so it doesn't matter. So this is why we're going to go in that direction. We're not going to do the tasheeh and mas'ala and inkisar, because it doesn't change the value at the end. All it's going to do is change 5 to 15, for example, to make it easier. But still, you're going to divide it, because $1 million is not nice, right? It's not a round number. So for those reasons, we're going to leave that, and it's also going to make it easy to remember. So inshallah, most of us, we got that. If you didn't, then you didn't do your homework, and it's bad too, right? You should do your homework. It's easier for you. The more you practice, it's better. But if you remember the rules, it's going to become easier to remember as you practice more. And that's why we have to go back for a second, because before moving on, we have to just reinstall some of those rules on slide number 22. So we go back there, and we need to remember some of those rules again, so we can become certain. So it becomes like in your head, you will always remember. So if we go back to the rules of complete exclusion, hajib and hirman, these are the ones where if you remember these rules, you would know how it works. So what's the ideal way of taking the case? The ideal way to first start off while labeling everyone's status. Who's usul, furu', hawashi? That's the first step. So if you were going to do a case, the easiest way to do it, first start off by labeling who's usul, who are foundational, who are subsidiary, furu', and who are hawashi. That's step number 1. Why? Because you have to know which category they fall into. It makes it also easier to do what's next. So that would say that's recommended step. When you start with a case, just put U for usul, H for hawashi, F for furu'. It allows you to see who is who. Then the second step you're going to do is you're going to figure out who gets kicked out of the case and who stays. So how's the easiest way to do that? Well, look at rule number 2. Rule number 3. Male foundational subsidiary heir cuts off all marginal heirs unrestrictedly. In easier terms, sons, grandsons, fathers, grandfathers, they take out everybody who's on the hawashi side immediately. So the third rule is very important, because it already gives you who's available. So if you see that there are sons or grandsons or fathers or grandfathers, these are called the foundational and subsidiary heirs. Male foundational subsidiary heirs cut off all marginal heirs. So that's the second step. Take out who have to go out. The easiest way to look at who's usul, who's furu', keep them there. Hawashi, are they going to be excluded or not? So how would you know? Just look, is there a son? If it's a son, everybody else on the marginal side is out. If it's a father, he's going to take everybody else out. Grandson, no son, same thing. So rule number 3 is very important, because it brings you down to the people who can be excluded. Rule number 4 then, to help you remember, there are 6 people who can never be cut. So if you want to start with division, start with them. Who are those? Who are those who can never be cut? The mother, father, husband, wife, son, daughter. These 6 can be cut off no matter what. And the reason why it's important to start with them, because they're the 6 are always going to be there. So the 4th step is once you've taken out whoever has to be excluded, the 6 who can be cut out, make sure you locate them too. Because they're always going to be in there. So one of the ways you know your answer is wrong when you took out one of the 6. You know you did something wrong because those 6 are there and you took one of them out, you did something wrong. At the same time, the person who's supposed to get removed, you should have removed in the beginning. Now, the ulama mentioned why these 6 don't get cut off, because their relationship to the deceased is direct. There's no intermediary. So that's a good benefit to remember. You want to know why the husband, wife, mother, father, son, daughter never get cut off? Because they're directly related to the deceased. What does that mean? There's nobody between them and them. So I have a father, son, so it's direct. Versus a paternal sister, where's the intermediary? The father. Maternal siblings, mother. Full sister or full brother, 2 parents. So that's the ta'leel, the hikmah behind it. They say those 6, nobody's between them. They're mubashir, the clear, direct. So those have no right to be cut off. As for everybody else who has the intermediary, then they can get cut off. Does that make sense? That will allow us to remember that. After that, you will use the remaining rules to determine it. So these are the rules that we said are very important, because you want to ensure that you cut the people off who deserve to be cut off. After that, you will give everybody their share according to the full amount or less amount. In determining the full amount and lesser amount, it's kind of easy. It's kind of easy too if you remember our rules. But look at this list here. These rules, we did it before. I just updated it. We put the mother in there too. Right? I believe the mother situation should become clear to us. Maybe we put it here, maybe it's not. But maybe I put it somewhere else. But anyways, the mother situation, a lot of people have to remember that. The mother, what she gets. But how do we understand, for example, now? These are the people who get cut off. Okay. How about, I determine who's got cut off, who's not. Now I want to know how much I should give you each person. Just remember, if there's usul or furu', if an heir is a foundation or subsidiary, they're always going to get the less amount when there's a fara'. So whoever's usul, let's say father, grandfather, mother, grandmother. Our grandmother doesn't really get decreased, right? But let's say mother, father, grandfather. These ones, how do you know to give them the lesser amount? Just remember, is there a fara'? Is there a subsidiary heir? So if you see a father, always ask the question, is there a son or daughter? If you see a mother, is there a son? Is there a daughter? And then another one we add, siblings. So whenever you see foundational heirs, you have to ask the question, are there any subsidiary heirs to give them the less amount? So for example, the father, when does he get 1/6? Well, the easiest way to remember, well, there must be a fara'. Why else is getting 1/6? And who's that fara'? Son has to be. And if there's a daughter, what's going to happen to him? He'll get the 1/6 plus the residual. And if there's no siblings or no subsidiary, he gets the most, right, in that case. So here you can remember, fara' is very important. So the ulama say, from foundational heirs, think about whoever the subsidiary heirs are. As for subsidiary heirs, they will look to 2 genders. For the males, it's easy. The son, then the grandson, then the one, so it goes by strength. As for the daughters, how do we do it? Daughter, granddaughter, going down. So the way to remember, are there 2 daughters? That's the question you're going to ask. Are there 2 or there's 1? If there's 1, everyone gets his full share from the daughters. If there's 2, let's say 2 daughters, 1 grandson, granddaughter, then what happens to the granddaughter if there's 2? We have to take her out unless she has someone to help her. So the rule then is, if you see subsidiary heirs, you have to ask the question, strength and numbers. So that will allow you to remember, granddaughters are not going to inherit when there's 2 daughters unless someone helps them. If there's 1, everyone gets the full amount. As for the other ones, the marginal heirs, the easiest way to remember is by strength. Whoever is stronger takes the share. Right? That's it. So these rules are important. We talked about last week the 2/3 part. And this one, some brothers, they get confused. So look at rule number 9. Sisters get residual amount when there are daughters. So daughters, 1 or more, it has to be 2 or more. Whenever they exist, whoever is a sister will always take the residual amount. And the reason why, we said before, has to go back to forming 2/3. So one way to remember, when we say sisters, paternal or full. When we say daughters, full daughter or granddaughter. So whenever there's more than 1 daughter and there's a sister, you already know what's going to happen. The daughters are going to take the 2/3, either one of them or divide it between them. And what happens to the sisters? They just take the residual. So remember that rule. Sisters always become residual heirs whenever there's daughters. So that may help you remember that. Let's say there's a full sister and there's 2 daughters. So here, 2 daughters and 1 full sister. What happens? What's easy? So 2 daughters, how much are you going to get? 2/3. What happens to the sisters then? Residual. Because a sister, when gets residual amount when there's daughters. Okay, another example. 1 daughter, 1 granddaughter, 1 full sister. What's going to happen here? So daughter is going to get 1/2. There's only 1. Granddaughter, 1/6. And how about this full sister? Nothing? Residual. Didn't I say daughters? Right? There's 2 of them. So there's 1 granddaughter, 1 daughter. They're called daughters. They're still daughters, right? So you can't say, oh, this is a granddaughter. They're still daughters. So remember, if there's 1 daughter, 1/2, 1 granddaughter, 1/6. Together, how much do they get? 2/3. They give the rest to the sister. Residual for the sister. So when we say daughters, it could be 2 daughters, 1 daughter, 1 granddaughter, 2 granddaughters, and 1 paternal sister. It doesn't matter. The rule is a sister gets residual amount when they're daughters. Now, obviously, now let's give one more example. Let's say there's all 4 of them. Full sister, paternal sister, granddaughter, daughter. What happens here? We have 4 of them. So we have to just go. If I was you, I'd go with the furu'. Start with the furu', right? The furu' have weight. So who gets what? Sister, daughter gets how much? 1/2. And then granddaughter, 1/6. And then the full sister, residual paternal sister, nothing. There, exactly. Follow that. Always go as ashab al-furu' then hawashi. Furu' have more right. So sometimes some people start with the hawashi. That's the mistake. If you give the full sister her amount, 1/2, and then you give the daughter 1/2, what do you do to the granddaughter? You kick her out, she's furu', she's hawashi. How will you do that? So most people, what they do is they forget. So remember, the first step always, label who's foundational, who's subsidiary, who's marginal. Then go from there. Then you'll find out quite easy what their answer is. But if you just start by looking at everybody individually, because remember the problem with the case is that you have to look at it individually and you have to look at it holistically. You have to first do the holistic map, who's who, then quickly you find out. But if you just start doing everybody separately, you can end up with your own madhab. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have your own madhab in this field. And so we have to be careful because often when you're practicing, you have to just follow these simple rules. And inshallah ta'ala, through practice, it becomes easier, right? So if whoever was practicing so far, you'll find it's getting easier to remember. Okay, today we're looking at some of the additional things that happen. And we're going to do 2 major ones. And this is going to be on slide number 45, if you're following. We're going to start with awl. Awl means reduction. So we're going to start with this one because it's easier than rad, redistribution. So here we have a situation when we do the proper division of a case, we're going to end up with what we call reduction. It refers to the situation when the total number of prescribed shares needed by the heirs exceeds 1 whole. Means we have too much shares. Everyone's supposed to get more than a whole. Okay, more than the whole. So this means then it creates a problem because we can't give everybody their full amount just by this alone because we have more than 1. Remember, whenever you divide, it has to be 1 versus 1/1, whole. So imagine in a situation we have this too many shares to be given. So what are we going to do? The ulama, when they had this situation, the Sahaba, all they did was reduce everybody's share in accordance to right, what the case is. So the original base gets decreased to how much shares we need, right? So we're gonna inshallah see that in a second. So this is not difficult compared to, as we'll see, the other one, the rad, which is redistribution, which has the more steps. Let us take a look at an example. Right, this will make it easier to remember. So let's look at slide 46. Here we have a wife passed away, leaving behind a husband, paternal sister and 2 maternal sisters, and an uncle. Right? So when we say uncle, full uncle. So what is going to be the situation? The husband gets 1/2. The paternal sister gets 1/2 because nobody else. And 2 maternal sisters going to get 1/3. What happens to the uncle? Why is he cut off? That was a good question. Why is he cut off? There's nothing left. It's not hajab. Remember the rule. That's another rule we have to remember. If ashab al-furud take everything, that's it. He's gone. فَمَا بَقِيَ. If there's anything remaining, فَلِأَوْلَى الرَّجُلِ ذَكَرْ. Remember that hadith. If there's anything remaining here, there's nothing remaining. Exactly. We have too much actually. So what happens in these kinds of cases, a lot of times we forget that, right? So remember the Hadith Ibn Abbas, you mentioned in the beginning of this class, Hadith Muslim. The rule is Ashab al-Furud, then Ashab al-Ta'sib. So first prescribed shares, then residual. Okay, so remember this is Hadith Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said first give them their rights, al-Hiqu, Ahl-Faraid, right? Ahl-Faraid, give them their Huquq. First, then if there's anything remaining. In this case, we ran out. We already give everybody their share. So uncle's gone. Okay, so now what? We have, according to our base, we use 6 as our base. Everyone remembers why. What group are these heirs in? Is it group A or group B? Group B, right? But people are forgetting these things, right? What we said, how do you divide the groups? We said group A, group B. Who's group A? What are their shares? 1/2, 1/4, 1/8. In group B, 2/3, 1/3, 1/6. You have to remember that. That's why, just because it makes it easier. So here we're going to go 6. So the reason why the group's easy, as soon as you see all one group, 6. So now we put 6 over there. And what we have? 3, 3, 2. We have total have 8. So it's too much. So what are we supposed to do now? The ulama say here, since we passed the total, all we're going to do then is we're going to just change the base. Instead of 6 to 8. That will result in every heir getting less than what they're supposed to get. So if the husband was supposed to get 1/2, 3 out of 6, now he gets 3 out of 8. See this? That's the reduction. So 3 out of 8, right, instead of 3 out of 6. And we're going to see in the next slide, before we get there, we're going to see that it reduces his share, right, to about 37.5% instead of 50. So this makes sense. This is fairness, right? This is how the Sahaba understood it. That when they had this case, they said, okay, instead of kicking people out or reducing some or others, everyone gets reduced. And it makes sense, right? Because aren't these all Ashab al-Furud? They're all prescribed heirs. We can't just take someone out. So what we're going to do, you just change the base from 6 to 8. That's it. Easy. Then we continue our case as is. So let's turn to the next slide now. And let's take a look at how we're going to do it. Now we're going to do the case as normal. So on the next slide. So we're going to see here, 32 dinars, right, are going to be divided by 8, the new base. We get 4 dinars per share. 3 times 4, 12 for the husband. 3 times 4, 12 for the sister, paternal sister. And 8 for the maternal sisters. Remember, they share, right? It doesn't matter, right? They always share. Together we get 32. Done. So now we can compare before and after. Before and after. And you can see how the reduction happened. So before the husband was getting 50%, now he gets how much? That's it. He gets his 37.5%. He's still getting his share, but it's reduced because of the crowding. And that's the correct way of going about it. Not you can't remove people. Okay, and again, if you go back to books of fiqh, the ulama, they discuss this issue and some of the difference of opinion. Because all these issues emerged in the time of the Sahaba. Okay, so that's the good news. All these issues emerged in the time of the Sahaba. So whenever these issues came, the Sahaba were the first one to deal with what we're going to do. And if they differ, then we differ. I mean, if we have different opinion today, it's because they had different opinion. And when there was ijma', there's ijma'. And then there's jumhur versus not, there's also the same. So that's also a benefit. Okay, so that's it. Does it make sense? This is easy. There's not too much that has to go on here. So now, al-awl, the idea behind it, reducing, because we have too much. That's all it means. Is it clear to everybody how it works? It's not hard. Okay, now we have to practice. Slide 48. So we're going to practice now, inshallah. So everybody will take their time and do it. You're going to do it by yourself, and then you're going to find the total amount. A man passed away, leaving behind 2 daughters, 3 wives, mother and father. His estate is worth 150,000. So the best way to do it, you're going to just use your paper and pen, no notes. That's how you're just going to use what you remember. That's also allow you to see what you remember and what you don't remember. Because if you check your notes, you're going to forget. So try to do without it. And no calculator allowed, just in case. Okay, just let me know when we're done. Just take your time, don't worry. So when you finish the chart, you do the math then, inshallah. So what's whatever is needed. Yeah, that's okay. That's not part of the hisab that we're doing here. We're just doing the chart. After that, the math. I'll help you. You're not going to do it in your head. So you don't use a calculator for the chart. For the math, you can use the calculator. That's okay. Yeah, so it's okay. Afwan, Khwani. Sorry. I made you guys do long division. Astaghfirullah. I don't even know long division that much shit. So use the calculator for the chart. Don't use the calculator. There's two calculators. The real one, the Islamic inheritance calculator. So we don't want the Islamic inheritance calculator. That one you just put everything in and boom, it gives you the answer. So that's the calculator that's prohibited. As for the regular calculator, then you have to use it. We don't want mistakes. So I think now people are probably done. Okay, looks like most people are done. Yeah. Okay, looks like most people are finished. So there's no answer there, so you're going to have to tell me the answer. So what is the answer? There is no answer, so we have to do it ourselves. You have to tell us. Okay, who did it? Okay. Okay, so how much did the two daughters get? So 2/3. So we'll start off the base. How much the fraction? Then tell me the total. So 2/3, which is going to be 16 out of 24. Okay. And then how much the three wives? 1/8. They're going to share. All of them are going to share 1/8. Okay. Mother? 1/6. Okay. And so that's going to be, so the wives get 3 out of 24. The mother gets 4 out of 24. And the father? 1/6. Okay, so 4 out of 24. So together, if we add it, the new base is going to be 27 instead of 24. Right? Everyone got that? When you put it together, you get 27 the base, not 24. So 2/3 for the two daughters, they get 16 out of 24. 1/8 for the three wives, they get 3 out of 24. The mother gets 1/6, 4 out of 24. The father is supposed to get the fard and the ta'seeb, but there's no ta'seeb. So he gets his 1/6 and the rest is cancelled. Why? Because it ran out. You see, everyone got that? How much the father is supposed to get? The father is supposed to get 1/6 plus the residual. There's no more residual, so what does he get? 1/6. You guys got that? No? So the logic is, let's go back. The father has three situations. Situation 1, he gets 1/6 only. When does that happen? When is a son or grandsons? Okay. Number 2, he gets 1/6 plus residual. When does that happen? When they're only daughters. So there are subsidiary heirs, but they're just daughters. Our situation, he got the 1/6, but then he couldn't get the ta'seeb because it ran out. The residual ran out. So some of us probably got stuck there because you're trying to give him an extra that doesn't exist. Right? So he's already above 27.4. So what are you gonna add? You got mashallah add ziyada. So if you added something, you gotta make up your ijtihad there. What are you gonna give him? You can't give him additional, there's no more. So always remember, you can only give when there's something. Factor share لا يعطي. There's nothing there. So he only gets 1/6. And then the third situation, the father gets all the ta'asib, all the residual amount when there's no subsidiary heirs at all. No daughters, no granddaughters, or sons, or daughters or granddaughters. So in this case, we changed the base from 24 to 27. If you got that, then you got it right. The base from 24 to 27. So when we add 16 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4, we get 27 instead of 27 instead of 24. That's our new base. So therefore, the daughters will get 16 out of 27. So how much do they get from the 150? 150,000. 88,889, around there. And then wives, there's 3 of them. They're all going to share this amount. Remember, wives are one group. 3, 2, 4, doesn't matter. So they're all going to get 16,666. And the mother and father get 22,000 and 2,200, right? So we're going to see that. And this is going to come later. The father and the mother, the amount that they get is equal, right? So some people say, well, why doesn't the father get more? And we're going to come to that later, right? This is disputable, right? This is supposed to be 2 to 1. Why is the father getting equal share as the mother? So we're going to get to that later. Is there such a wisdom behind that? But that's what you should have got, right? Does that make sense, right? We don't have other examples because of time, but later we're going to give some, inshallah. Okay, so awl is easy. It's easier, I should say easier. Al-awl, it's easier than the next one we're going to do. So the next one we're going to do is called rad. Before we get there, is it clear to everybody? Is it clear? Anyone have any questions? I think there's a question over here. You understood now? So when you add 16 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4, so give everybody their due shares, it's more than 24. So we have more than a whole. So because it became more than a whole, we change the base. So the scholars say you change the base when there's more instead of changing or taking somebody out, or so everyone gets reduced equally then. Yeah, let me just say, so when there's something, so this situation is too much. If there wasn't, then it's fine. So if it equals 1, that's good. If it's more than 1, we have to do awl. If it's less than 1, that's what we're going to do now. When we have less than 1, we have another problem. So we have to understand when there's less versus more. The point is, why did the ulama say everyone gets reduced? Because all of them ashab furud. They all prescribe shares. It wouldn't be fair to say, for example, give the wives the less the 1/8. Everybody else gets more. Because what we're doing here, we're changing the prescription. So the scholars say change the base. And that's the correct way. Right? So hopefully that makes sense. And many times it happens like that sometimes in this situation, the base has to change. Let us move now to rad. Rad is redistribution. So this one is more complicated because there's 2 scenarios. So what is rad? If awl is when there's too much, right, the shares equal more than 1, rad refers to the case when there is no ta'asib heirs after those who inherit by way of fard. In other words, there's a residual amount remaining and there's nobody to take it. That's what it is. Rad means ashab al-furud, the people of prescription took their share, and what's left over supposed to go to ta'asib, and they don't exist. So what will happen then? In this case, the ulama say we must redistribute the wealth back to all the heirs except the 2 spouses. Okay, you have to write that note. Except the 2 spouses. So there's the key. This is the key to understanding rad. When there's no residual heirs. So when we say no residual heirs, we're talking as ahl ta'asib, tamaman, all of them. So there's no brothers. So no sons, fathers, brothers, or uncles. Or emancipators, if in this case of slavery. None of them exist. In that situation, the ulama say we must redistribute the wealth. Now the redistribution will go back to everyone except for the 2 spouses. And some will say why? The ulama say because they're not related to the deceased by way of blood ties. They're related to him or her by marriage ties, sihr, not nasab, not arham. Okay, so good to remember that hikmah. So why do they not get it? They don't get it, the ulama say, because they are not the people who are from the blood ties. They're marital ties. Surah Ahzab, ayah 6, وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ, those who are blood relatives, أَوْلَى بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلَى بِبَعْضٍ, they're closer than others. So here's the ayah, chapter 30, verse 6, that shows that the spouses are out because there's ashab al-sihr and arham. Right? Even though they never get cut off, but here that doesn't mean they get the extra. So that's a fa'idah, The reason why we're going to say that is because, follow the logic, chapter 30, verse 6. Right? وَأُولُو الْأَرْحَامِ, and the people who are blood relationship are more entitled to the inheritance in the decree of Allah than others. Chapter 30, verse 6. Okay, now watch this. Let's say we redistributed, or in a situation that there's no one else to redistribute and still there's something left. So some situation we're going to say give all of them there. But later we're going to see a situation where can we give it to other relatives who are not ashab ta'asib? So who are those? The last chapter we're going to do later at the end is Dhiwil Arham. The maternal relatives, what they call the uterine relatives, all the mom's side. When does your mom's side come into the situation? These are some examples where there's nobody. So ulama say here, what do we do? Some they say, okay, give back to the people who are inheritors. Some say, well, get the ulul arham, they're going to come in. And they differed on this. Some they say, no, there's nothing left. Baytul Mal. Right, that's it. And we're going to get to that, these differences. But why chapter 30, verse 6 is important? There is a time when there's nobody to take the inheritance. So in all the paternal heirs are missing or dead. And then so we go to the maternal heirs. So they call it Dhiwil Arham. And where the asl come from? This ayah. There's ikhtilaf, but it's good to at least know that. So chapter 3, verse 6. So here we learn the wisdom why the spouses are out. So if this case makes sense to us, there are three possible scenarios. Scenario number one, there's only one heir who receives their prescribed share. In that case, they take everything. So imagine there's $1 million of estate, and a man dies or a woman dies, and she only has one daughter. The daughter takes all $1 million because nobody else to even distribute to. She takes everything. Right? So those cases happen. Right? This also shows you that it's unlike what the non-Muslim think about Islam, that women always get less. They don't look at these situations, right? If you only have one daughter, nobody else. This is a case, example. Number two, there is more than one heir, but they're all the same level. In that case, they all share what's there. So let's say $50,000 estate, 5 daughters. So what are we going to do? All daughters, everyone gets 10K. That's it. Done. And the third type is when there's one heir, right? There's more than one type, of heirs. So there's more than one heir and different types. In that case, we have to just redistribute. So redistribution then it's all about giving everybody more than what they're supposed to get because the people of Ta'asib are not there. فَمَا بَقِيَ, there's something remaining and there's no one to take it. Making sense? Awl is the opposite of Rad. Rad is harder, so we started Awl. That's why we started the easy one. Right? This one's more tricky, only because there's two scenarios. Spouses are there or not there. Let's start off with the ones where the spouses are not there. So page 50. It says here, case, a man passed away leaving behind his daughter and granddaughter, and the estate is worth 20 dinar. So here, what are we going to say? Daughter and granddaughter, how much they get? Daughter gets 1/2. And then granddaughter, 1/6. How much is that together? 2/3. What's remaining? 1/3. What are we going to do? So we're going to have to redistribute because daughter and granddaughter are not spouses. So we have to redistribute it. So how do we do that? So you see how over here the base is supposed to be 6, but the total shares are 4. So we change the base from 6 to 4. Right? So the opposite. When we did Awl, we had to make it less. This one, make it more. This one, make it less. So now the daughters get 3 out of 4, 75%. And then the 1 out of 4, 25% for the granddaughters. This is Awl, this is Rad, this is redistribution. Otherwise, not the origin. Does that make sense? So it's the opposite. So this is easy. But when the spouses are there, that's where it gets more tricky because we have to do 2 different calculations. So here, if you understood the last lesson, Awl, then you understand Rad. So do the case as normal and change the base from bigger to smaller one. Awl, change the case from smaller to bigger. So you can write that down to remember, right? So that's it. So the one way to remember, the base is too small, we're going to make it bigger. If it's too big, we make it smaller. That's it. That's easy, right? I mean, it even makes sense. But sometimes what happens is the other ways of calculating it, we're just going to use this the easiest way, the simplest way. So if we do the case properly, go to slide number 51. What are we going to get? 20 dinars was the estate. How much is our new base? It's 4. So if 20 divided by 4, 5 dinars for a share. So the daughters get daughter gets 3 out of 5 shares, 15. And the granddaughter gets 1 out of 5 dinars, or 1 times 5, so 5 dinars. Together is 20. And if you do the math, it's correct. 15 divided by 20 is, right? It's 75%. And 5 over 20 is 25. That's it. Makes sense? This is easy. This part is easy, right? Just like the last one, we're just going to change the base the other way around. If you didn't get the last one, then yeah, this is, you're probably confused. If you got the last one, you should be getting it. But the one that's more tricky is the one coming. But so before continuing, is it clear to everybody? It's just the same. Just we change the base to make it smaller. Is it clear? So it happens sometimes. Not as common. Why? Because there's usually, you might see there's more heirs than less. Not every family, but most families, there are more people than there are less people. In some families, there are less people than there are more people, especially if somebody is very old. And let's say they outlived a lot of their siblings and a lot of their family members. Then sometimes that happens. But usually it's the other way around. Okay, now we must go to slide 52. And take a look at when the wife is there. This is the one we have to pay attention to because now our case is going to change. We have a new case window. So we have 2 cases in one. Okay, so you have to focus, all right? So if you're not focusing already. This one, we have 2 cases. A man passes away, leaving behind a wife, sister, and paternal brother. Total estate is 40 dinars. So what we have to do first, we have to do 2 cases, with the wife and without the wife. Why? Because we cannot redistribute to the wife. So what do we have to do? We have to first find out what the original case is. Then we have to do another case without the wife. Then we combine both cases to figure out what's going to be the total. This is a little more tricky. This is why it's trickier in this case. So let's start off with the basic. A wife, sister, maternal brother. What's the shares? Wife gets 1/4. And then the sister, 1/2. And maternal brother, 1/6. Okay, so now we look at this. We're going to say, okay, so 1, 1, 1, we're done. Let's do the case. The base is going to go, supposed to be 12. And we're going to put it together. So what do we get? So it's 3 plus 6 plus 2. How much is that? It's 11. So our new base is supposed to be 11 because there's something missing. Now, in order to redistribute this amount, the wife cannot be in the case like the last one. We can't include her in the redistribution. So how much are we redistributing anyways? Just 1 out of 12, right? 1 share. So this 1 share, don't be shocked. 1 share could be a lot of money, right? It could be 50K, 100K. When we say 1 share, is not some scheme, $1. Right, guys, 100,000. We're talking money here. So 1 share could be a lot. So this 1 share, everyone's getting but the wife. So how can we figure that out? So what you're going to do, you do a second case. Therefore, there's a second window with the same people. And what we're going to do, I took out the wife and we did the case without her. So with the sister and maternal brother. So what do we get? They're both of them in the same, they're group B. So they're going to be 6 base. Base will be 6. So 3 for the sister, 1 with the brother. Their new base is 4. Right? That's what so the 6 was the original base and without the wife, and it changes to 4 because that's how much they have. Now with these 2 windows, what are we going to do? In order to get the total base, we're going to take the new case without the wife. So what's the new base? 4. Take that amount and times it by 1/4. Right? Example. Or you're going to do, 4 by the base of the original wife. So original wife is supposed to get 1/4. And then the new base is 4. So 4 by 4 makes 16. So what am I doing? I'm multiplying the case without the wife, the new base, to the original amount the wife is supposed to get, which is 1/4. So 4 times 4. 4 is coming from the new base, and 4 because the wife gets 1/4. Together we get 16. And now from there, we're going to finish the case like normal. 16, 1/4 out of 16 is 4. All right, so I think my explanation here needs to be changed, right? So it's not explaining it properly. The wife's share is calculated by multiplying the original share by 4. Yeah, sorry about that. By the base, I should say. Base by the new base by the original base. All right, I'm going to edit that to make it easier to understand. So what we're doing is we're taking the new base, which is 4, and the wife's original case, which is amount, which is 1/4, and we're going to do 4 by 4. Right? And why are we using hers? Because she's the one who's excluded. She's the one who is not in the case. So take a look. The new base is 4, right? The wife is supposed to get 1 out of 4. 4, so the common denominator there, by that new base, makes 16. Then you finish the case like normal. So 1/4 out of 16 is 4. 1/2 of the 16, No, sorry, yeah, so that's for her. Now the rest of them, they're going to combine the two cases over here. 6 plus 3 is 9, and 2 plus 1 is 3. So the difficulty here is that the way the case is structured, you have to remember multiple steps. Okay, so we're going to repeat, because some of us are lost, right? This was hard. This is the hardest one probably, right? Actually, there's harder than that. Yes? Yeah, so what we're going to do, so for the wife, once we change the new base to 16, the wife is going to get 1/4 of 16. She's done, right? Now the other two, they're going to get the two cases combined. 6 plus 3 is 9, 2 plus 1 is 3. Why? Because they're getting redistributed, she's not. So what are we trying to understand? How much should they get redistributed, and how much should we keep the wife in original? So if you think about it, if the wife was supposed to get 1/4, in the beginning she's getting 1/4, at the end she's getting 1/4. The only thing that we did different is that we redistributed to everyone but her, then we brought her back into the case. That's what we're doing, right? But the way this case window is looking at, it's almost like if you want to go backwards go to slide 50. If you see what we did in slide 50, it's like we're doing that, and then we're including the wife. So we already have the wife done separately, her case, then we did the sister and the maternal brother, then we combine their both cases. So there are other ways of doing it, right? So this is one way, you can do it different ways. As long as the answer ends up with the redistribution goes to the sister and maternal brother, the wife cannot get more than 1/4. Right? So some of us might say, okay, is there a different way of doing it? There are different ways of doing it. As long as the wife doesn't get more than 1/4, then you got it right. But if she gets redistributed, then you got it wrong. That's the problem. So the way the ulama, some of them, they do this is one method. You don't have to do it this way. But the key is, what are we doing? To understand it, the last slide we did, we redistribute everybody. That's easy. Here, we're trying to redistribute for the sister and the maternal brother while giving the mother 1/4. That's what we're trying to do. So in my case, I know it's correct because the wife got 1/4. Everyone else got the extra one share. That's it. And this is how, right, we'll look at it. If we want to see now a practice, let's try to practice this. The next slide, we're going to practice it. We're going to see. But you have to understand what we did first. First, you do the case, and you figure out what's missing. Then you do the second case without the wife. Then you find a new base using the wife's, right, common denominator, whatever it is. It can also apply to husband too, right, the husband and wife. And then from there, you will give her or him his share, and the sister and the maternal brother will take the combined of those two cases. It would only make sense if we practice, because otherwise we're not going to see. Yes. She should get 4. Yeah, so she's supposed to get 1/4. That's her amount, 1/4. Yeah. So the 3 out of that. So the first one she gets 3 out of 11. So here she gets the 4th. It's supposed to be 1/4. That's the amount. She can't change 1/4. So the reason why it's supposed to be 3 out of 12. That's originally what she's supposed to get. So that's what. So if we go back, if she's supposed to get 1/4, 3 out of 12, and then we found out there's something missing. So the one missing doesn't belong to her. That's why we're trying to keep her to 1/4. It's too much. Yeah. So because she's not part of the. She cannot change her amount. That's the whole point. She has to get 1/4. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to give everybody else an increase except for her. So if she started if we didn't do the rad, she gets 1/4. At the end of our case, she gets 1/4.
But she gets it against the new amount.
Yeah, that's it. Doesn't matter because she still gets 1/4. So the base went up, yes, but it's still 1/4 for her. But the other ones, they increased because for them, they got more. 9 out of 16 versus 6 over 12. You see that? That's the key. We're trying to give them more, not her. So you're right. She's going to get more off the new base, but it's actually not more because it's still 1/4. Increases the base, but it won't increase the share.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the difference. It will not increase the fraction. It only increases the base. All right, so she's still getting 1/4. That's the key. So I agree. I understand it. She's getting 4 out of 16 instead of 3 out of 12, but it's still 1/4. So that's why the fractions are more important, because the fractions allow us to tell us what percentage she's supposed to get. So now let's try the next one and see if we can make sense of this, because this is the hardest part we're doing so far. So if we get it wrong, it's okay, as long as we can figure out what we're doing wrong. All right, so we're gonna have this case here. A woman passes away, leaving behind a husband, daughter, and granddaughter. The total estate $150. All right, so don't worry about the estate. Let's worry about what the share will look like. Remember, husband just like the wife, no redistribution for them. Okay, because what was the wisdom behind it? They're not related for blood, only to marriage, right? So let's try that. Let's see. If we get this, then mashallah, we can go home, brothers. All right, that's good for us. Okay, if we get this, khalas, we're done. So yeah, let's do the whole thing. Let's do with the calculations, yeah. Because this will be the last one we're gonna do, inshallah. So if we get it right, mashallah. Okay, let's put it to 160. Tariq saying 150 is too much. 160 is nicer. Makes it smoother, the math. Okay, the total stayed 160. How about that? Okay. Okay, we done? Yeah, done? I think the 160 makes it easier. So, okay, so what's the answer? Husband gets? Okay, originally, how much the husband gets? 1/4, and then daughter? 1/2, granddaughter? 1/6. So total's base is 12, and then when we add it together, 3, 6, 2, we get 11. Okay, now take out the husband. How much the daughter gets? It's a half out of. So what's the base for the new one originally? 6. And then, so daughter will get 3, and granddaughter gets 1. So then the reduced one is going to be a short one 4. Okay, then we put it together. What's the total amount? 16. Husband gets 4, and then daughter 9, and granddaughter 3. How many of us got that? خلاص. Some of us we didn't get. Don't put your hand up. It's okay. Right. Rad is not easy, right? But you get the point. Another way of looking at it is the husband still gets 1/4. Right? So someone might just say take 160 divided by 1/4, he gets $40. That's it. So we give him a share. But the problem is, what are you going to do with the rest? So you can make it two independent cases, but the problem you're going to have is if you do that, you might have difficulty finding out how much more the granddaughter gets versus the daughter, or daughter versus granddaughter. So some people, when you look at it, why do we want to put all in one case? We want to know how much the daughter and the granddaughter are going to get from the case, not how much the husband stays with. So you see, we went from 6 to 9 for her daughter, and 2 to 3 for the granddaughter. So essentially, if you look carefully, how much more did the daughter get? From 6 to 9, how much more did she get? 50% more? And that's it. That's another way of looking at it. You increase in accordance to the shares they already have. Is that what's happening? Yeah, that's another way of doing it. So if you don't like this way of doing it, just think about it. Once you give the wife and the husband with their fixed amount, everyone else will be increased in accordance to what they're supposed to have originally. So if it was supposed to be 6 out of 11 for her, then it becomes, or 6 out of 12, it became 9 out of 16. She was given a 50% extra of what was remaining. That's it. But the question, obviously, this way we're doing it here allows us to see all the changes. Versus if you just want to use the calculator, you can do that too. It means if someone came to you and you just use the calculator, you could do that. But the most important thing is the case window, because it allows you to see what steps you're taking. So if you made a mistake, you know how to correct it. Versus if you use the calculator and did it from your head, you might be correct, but you didn't know exactly what you did wrong. And that's why it's better the most important thing is how to do the case window. Well, inshallah, we'll practice some more later. Yes?
Is the redistribution 1-to-1 for, is it equal for all remaining parties?
So everyone but the husband and wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it equal to everybody remaining? Or is it per their...
So per the amount that they are supposed to initially get. So we're taking that residual and giving them in accordance to what they were supposed to get, that initial increase. And that's what you're noticing. If you did the fractions for all of them, you'll notice that she's getting this much extra, the granddaughter's getting this much extra. But the window, the way it's supposed to make you see how is it happening, so you're not going to make a mistake, right? Because if you did make a mistake, you will know exactly what to correct it. Also, if you made a mistake in the initial calculations, then you made a mistake, right? That's another thing. Yes? So that's the thing. So the husband and wife, then we're going to give them both their share and then give the other person whatever is remaining. So that's a little easier because you give them their fixed share and then everything goes to that heir who's from the arham, because they're going to take everything. Because there's only one person to distribute to. They get their fixed share and their amount left over. So that's another example. Maybe we'll do that next week when we have husband and wife, and then we have a daughter. But if you think about it, daughter will just take everything. Right? Because the husband and wife can't redistribute. The wife gets her one half, the other gets one half, and then there's nobody else to take anything else. But as if there is something remaining. I think there's a problem. Is there going to be anything remaining? Yes. So he's saying husband, wife, daughter, for example. It's not possible too, yeah, because if you look at it, there's nothing to redistribute. So they say usually the redistribution will happen when there's only one of the spouses and then not enough of the other heirs. But if you have both of them, it's technically he's right, it's not going to happen because we all gone. Okay, one last thing. Let's look at the last slide. What's coming next week? So we finished all the major cases. Now we have to take a look at special cases. These are the cases we're going to do next week, some of them over others. These are cases where some unique circumstances, and the ulama, they mention in the books of fiqh, these are the cases where there are special cases, they're rare. For example, successive deaths. Two heirs, one person is supposed to inherit from somebody else, and that person died. Then another person died suddenly too, so two people died. But one died after another. What are we going to do here? Someone went missing. How do we determine his share? Someone's born a hermaphrodite, right? So we're going to talk about what is that hukm shar'i, how does it impact that inheritance? Someone dies drowning or demolition, something hit him in the head, it burned. What about them? Inherits an unborn baby. So a woman is pregnant. Somebody died in the family. How much do we give the newborn? Right, who's not born yet, but we don't know if it's male or female or it's twins. What are we going to do? So that's the situation. The musharaka case, we're going to talk about that is the Gharrawain or the two Umar cases, this unique case of Khilafah Umar that happened. Inheritance of paternal grandfather and paternal paternal brothers, and some difference of opinion amongst the ulama regarding that. And the last one is inheritance of the kindred blood or the maternal heirs. When did they get anything? So what we'll do is next week we'll do some of them, and the other week we'll finish with that. And so inshallah ta'ala, I think those are all the major issues of inheritance, and then after that we can do a test. But before that we have time, right? So inshallah, you go home. We're gonna maybe have to share some practice for the rad and the awal, because some people they need to practice more. The more you practice, the easier. And like I said, if you want to practice, you can come up right with either your own situation or you can Google some, or we can share some, inshallah, some pages where you can do some review, and you can even double check with each other, inshallah ta'ala. When with this one, yes, brother. Yeah, that's a good point. That is the case. So it's ikhtilaf. So you're right, we didn't get there, so we did it as is. Otherwise, you're right, it's a Gharrawain case. So there's going to be a problem there. You have two choices, Jumhur and the minority. Jumhur is you give the mother 1/3 of what's remaining, not 1/3 of the total. So she gets less. Yeah, so we're going to come to that. Because we didn't teach it, we didn't explain it. But that's good to know there's such thing, yes. So the thing is that the problem is, and I think let's go back to it. So it says a mother, father, husband, paternal brother. So you're right, because it's the Gharrawain case actually is husband, mother, father. That's how it's supposed to be. It's not the original case because the paternal brother is not supposed to be there. So so their issue is, like you said, originally it's not the case, but the wisdom behind the case, the illah behind it was, the father is getting not double the portion of the mother. That was the khilaf. And so in our case, literally, the father got the remaining 1 out of 6, and the mother got 2 out of 6. So they're arguing, how is it fair that the father, he didn't get double? That's the hikm illah. But the other ulama did different and say, well, it's true, but is it actually what's the word for it? Correct? Besides ijtihad sahaba. But you're right, it's not the actual case. We're just trying to say, does it apply with the illah here? So sometimes someone will say, no, it doesn't, because this is not the case. And some will say, well, even though we can see the same reasoning. We gave 1/6 and 1/3. Yeah, so even though we're going to say, Hamza was mentioning, these are the elements. But for us, we didn't do it. For two reasons. Number one, the paternal uncles or brothers there. And number two, we're going to see this ikhtilaf. So we're going to go with what we learned. So لا التوريث إلا بتدريس. No, this is not the rajih, this is just a separate case. So because we can't go to ikhtilafat in these kind of things. And also we're going to see if it's correct, because there is some different opinion. The Jumhur, though, they say that the wisdom stays. But you're right, it's not the actual case. So we're just going to leave as we studied now. Yeah, we'll come back to it later, inshallah. That's why I said, when we come back later, we'll do the whole thing. طيب, inshallah. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.